Slider hung on and lifted. 107 off the barrel. Trey Barrett has dipped his 450 feet. And the Golden Eagles take an early lead. Oh boy. Seth Smith has sent one down the right field line. Gone.
That fits in well.
Solo home run for Seth Smith.
Hey Golden Eagle fans, I'm Southern Miss Stadium announcer Jackson Walker, and you're listening to Nasty Bunch and Beyond.
How's it going, y'all? Welcome in to another episode of Nasty Bunch and Beyond. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. You can find me on X at Dalton_Trigg. I'm joined today by a special guest, Dima Mixon. He is a sports editor with the Pine Belt News, their sports section over there, and does great work. And you can find him at Dima Mixon on X as well. So, which honestly, if y'all are following this podcast and my stuff for Southern Miss stuff, you're very likely already following Dima Mixon because he's been doing this stuff, longer than I have. So, Dima, how you doing today?
Really good. Thanks for having me on, and really enjoy the show. And I try to listen to most of them, and I like to listen, all the different podcasts, just get everybody's feelings on the things, and you do a great job all over there on your website as well. Your stories are really well written, so just a great honor to be here today. So.
I greatly appreciate it, and same to you as well. I mean, you do a great job covering Southern Miss athletics, really, Pine Belt sports in general, but, especially with Southern Miss, I greatly appreciate it. Some of these baseball stories you've been putting out have been great, so especially that Colby Allen one, when we were getting started before the season, that was some great stuff. So,
yeah, that was a fun one.
So, baseball team, the week started out great because had that big win over Mississippi State on Tuesday night, back and forth, had a 5-0 lead. State came back 6 straight runs, took the lead, had 2 wild pitches that Golden Eagles were able to score 2 on late in that game. They end up winning 7-6. Everybody's hyped. It's very emotional. Great win over a top 5 team in the nation, and everybody's feeling good about it. And then here comes Nichols on on a Wednesday night, a team that has had the Golden Eagles number over the last couple of years since 2024. And now they have lost 3 of their last 4 to Nichols. It was a 3-2 grind out kind of game, aside from Matthew Russo getting that solo homer in the bottom of the first inning. They're really, the bats were just kind of quiet, and, had a big opportunity late in that game with the bases loaded and only 1 out to try and, come back and win that one, but they just weren't able to do it. So, Coach Oz wouldn't want to make excuses for it. The players wouldn't want to make excuses for it. But how much do you think that the Nichols loss was a result of, 1, it being their 5th game in 6 days, and 2, you're coming off the emotional high and emotionally draining win against Mississippi State the night before?
No, yeah, I mean, that's obviously what I think everybody thought coming into the game. I kind of felt the whole day, even at the game, that this was kind of danger zone. You're playing your second midweek, and, there was always a possibility of them not coming out, I guess, with the same fire, right? Because you had about 2,000 less people there last night too, so you're kind of on top of that.
Yep.
But on the other hand, like you said, I mean, I really thought this team wouldn't fall privy to that, because I really thought that they separated themselves from teams in the past, at least what we've seen so far in the season, of being a veteran lineup that doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, right? That's what they've talked about all season long. And I really felt like that they would be fine last night. And for the most part, I mean, and it's safe to say that the reason they lost that game was not due to pitching. That's for daggum sure. I mean, Thomas Crabtree came out and probably pitched his best performance that he's pitched on the mound as a Golden Eagle, of course, career high in strikeouts. And, of course, they kind of surprised me a little bit bringing Sundstrom in and kind of pitching him for 2 or 3 innings. That'll probably shut down any hopes of him going on Sunday, but at least starting on Sunday. But, it seemed like Southern Miss really wanted to win this game. I mean, then they brought in Og. So it was kind of surprising in that scenario. But yeah, I mean, the bats just really, I mean, for the most part, all season haven't been great. I mean, when you look at as far as the batting average, they're like 8th or 9th in the Sun Belt. But the pitching has been so good, it really hasn't come up and bit them yet. And last night, that's just how it felt. I mean, really 3 base runners until the 8th inning, and really uncompetitive, plate appearances by almost everybody. So it was kind of just a head scratcher. You can definitely point to the Mississippi State game being kind of a lull, but like I was saying, I really felt like this team was different than that. So now I'm kind of questioning, my feelings on that as of now. And I know it's one game and, it is what it is, but for example, like when they beat Oregon State, that was a very emotional game. And I talked to Oz and he was kind of nervous about that Baylor game. Right. And they did kind of come out flat offensively, but they kind of took advantage of some Baylor miscues and was able to win that game. So I really felt like we were going to see something like that. But it really just wasn't competitive from the start. And, I mean, credit to Nichols. I mean, for the most part, they didn't walk anybody. Right. And, only gave up 1 walk and, tons of strikeouts. Of course, the back-breaking strikeout was Matthew Russo in the 8th with the bases loaded. Really only had to get a ball in play. They, and I don't think they would have turned 2, even if the ball was even towards shortstop or second. It would have been kind of tough, but it is what it is, and you move on. And as long as you sweep this weekend, it shouldn't hurt you as far as RPI for the most part. I saw a lot of people on Twitter freaking out about RPI. I'm like, dude, first off, it's beginning of March, and second, this is the best resume that Southern Miss has ever had coming into March 2nd. So everybody just needs to chill out on the RPI stuff. They're basically a lock to host at this point if they take care of business in the conference. So
correct, yeah. And then I mean, look, Coastal is hurt. Their starting pitching has gone through it so far, and it's looking like they may fall out of true contention in the Sun Belt unless they get healthy by tournament time and shake off rust. But I mean, look, Arkansas State, Raging Cajuns. There's some teams looking tough out there in the Sun Belt. So,
and both those games, by the way, are on the road for USM at Arkansas State and at UL. So. Those are going to be very interesting series. And starting next week with Arkansas State to open up your conference play. So, yeah. But sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. It's going to be tough, and like you said, hats off to Nichols and especially Tyler Avery. He came into that game for those 3 innings. He was pitching. He was just absolute nails. Like he was very impressive to me, and he was great.
He sat down all 9 Eagle batters he saw in a row, which was impressive. That's I don't think anybody's been able to do that all season. Anybody. So, you think there'd be like a single or a walk in there, but he did 9 in a row, and then they pulled him. So,
well, no matter how well Southern Miss is playing, no matter what Nichols' record is, all I know is for the past 3 years they have been a problem. I don't know if that's just like a mental thing at this point. Like, hey, this team. Like, they see Nichols on the jersey in red or whatever, and, it kind of messes with them. But all I know is that there are instances across not just college baseball, there's in several sports where certain teams just have your number. So I'm hoping that's just what it is. We'll see how it, translates into this weekend and if the guys can start a new win streak. But speaking of that, we'll kind of transition into that now, talk a little bit about North Alabama, kind of like Nichols, they don't have the most impressive record early on. They're 7-6 overall, 7-4 at home, 0-2 on the road. But they do have a big win over Murray State, who is a very good ball club. They actually run ruled them 15-5 in 7 innings. So they have a good win there. They gave Ole Miss all they could handle early in that game on Wednesday night. They were up 4-1 at one point, ended up losing that one 8-5. So what are you looking forward to this weekend as far as like what Southern Miss is going to see from North Alabama?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is probably going to be the weakest opponent they play. I mean, that's not a knock to North Alabama, but
Right.
it's not a knock to them. But this is definitely a weekend where it's you just have to sweep. I mean, regardless of what those numbers are, you can't drop a home game to a more than likely sub 300 RPI team. That will hurt you down the road. I don't really think that Nichols game is going to hurt them. Normally those kind of wash out when you lose one or two of those games. But if you lose one of these games, like a series game or something like that, normally those are the ones that come back and bite you. I remember like in 2023, they lost to Marist at home, I believe. And, it came down to them and a couple of teams to host at the very end. And Southern Miss actually won the Sun Belt Championship, and they weren't able to host that year. They ended up going to Auburn, which worked out fine for them because they won it. But they look back at that Marist game, that Marist loss. They look back at the Nichols loss from that year. And anyways, there's a couple of those, sub 200 RPI teams that Southern Miss dropped. This is an absolute, must-have sweep this weekend. And, I mean, you're right. It's baseball and anything can happen. The last time Southern Miss played them, I think it was in 2022. I remember them being, competitive at bats. They were a really well-coached team. I mean, they're D1 baseball players. I have not dove into like their pitching stats or like who's going each day or anything like that yet. I was really, going to probably go into that this afternoon for the show's like podcast I do. But I mean, it's baseball. And like we saw last night, I mean, really for me, and I've said this to everybody who's asked me about this team, is I really feel like when Southern Miss scores 5 or more runs, they're going to win most of their games just because of how good the pitching staff is. Last night, 2 runs and they lost, but 4 runs would have been enough. Right. So, so I just, that number has stayed with me with 5. Anytime they get 5 or more, I feel like they're going to win. So, really, what I'm looking forward to seeing this weekend, though, is Colby Allen and McCarty English, 2 guys who have shown flashes of what we think they can be this season, but honestly have not gone off to great starts. Colby, I'm just not confident yet in if it's Friday night stuff yet. I'm not sure. I just don't know. He's had like good moments, and it's not like he's pitched bad. I guess there's just been such a pedigree of Friday night guys for Southern Miss that we hold him to such a high standard. JV Middleton, Tanner Hall, all these ridiculous arms that they've had over the last few years. But I do expect him to extend on Friday. I think anything less than 5 innings or 6 innings for him would be kind of alarming against, which again, it's not a knock to North Alabama, but if you're claimed to be the top 10 team in the country, your starter should go 6 or 7 innings against a team like this. Your ace. So, and then the same for McCarty English. I mean, I don't necessarily think he's thrown bad as a starter. He's just gotten his pitch count way too high because he's just struggled to command his off-speed stuff. So I look for that. Those 2 things are the biggest things I look for. And then I want to see Matthew Russo have a good weekend because he's really struggled from the plate. And also Stockman. I mean, Stockman's really struggled from the plate as well. If they could get those 2 guys going, I'm not worried about the offense, but those guys have really struggled over the past few weeks. And, but I really feel like once they get those guys going, the offense will be just fine. And, it kind of is like this moment where you're just kind of waiting on it. Cause you're not going to take Russo out of the lineup, of course. But you would think he'd be batting better than what is he batting right now? Like 250 or something like that. So yeah, so,
maybe a little less than that after last night.
Less than that. Yeah. So, and you need something better than that from your cleanup guy. So, and it's going to come along. Like I'm not worried about Matthew Russo. Just what he's done for this program. He's a veteran player, a lot of at bats. But you can kind of tell he's even frustrated himself. You saw it last night. And obviously with that, I'm not knocking him, but it was a big, you got to get something to the outfield there with bases loaded.
Right. He's got a long way to reach down, to get that ball on the bunt. So he tells maybe his eyes came up a little too soon, and
and he's been swinging on a lot of high fastballs, like a lot of high fastballs. And I talked to Travis Creel about that, and he said that's something they work on, not just with him, but with the whole team. Trying to see that better because I really feel like high fastballs have been killing this lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I think I'm with you. I think it has to be a sweep this weekend. You can't lose one of these games. It'd be one of those little nitpicky things that they look at the end of the year when it comes selection time. So we'll see how it goes. But I fully expect a sweep. I think they'll take that loss to Nichols as a learning experience, and we'll see. Because Look, if you look at that Mississippi State game, for example, I went back and looked, and it was Joey Urban, Russo, and a couple others who combined, or two more key guys that they combined for like 1 for 16 at the plate, and you still find a way to win that game. So, I mean, that shows the potential, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is probably the most encouraging part about this team is like the offense hasn't been great over the first 13 games. I mean, it's been like,
and yet you're 11-2, so
exactly, and you're only, your losses are to Jackson, Flora, and then just like a, whatever loss to Nichols. Nobody's looking at Southern Miss and saying that what they displayed last night is their team, right? So, and so I think that's very exciting for Southern Miss fans that offense should come along. It should, and you've seen flashes of it, like Dre Barrett 450. I mean, you've seen flashes of what
they're still looking for that ball.
Right. Yeah. I made the joke that hit Doobie Nova Field up there in Starkville. So.
Yeah, I was telling my wife, the long leaf trace, it's like they're gonna find somebody that got pegged on the trace. It's like there's a crater size of a baseball. But it disappeared. That Dre got a hold of that one. That was awesome to see. Well, look, Dima, I appreciate you joining me. Just wanted to talk with you a little bit about what happened this week and then kind of preview what we're looking for this weekend for this team as they try to bounce back. As Coach Oz said, last night his post-game media stuff, and I saw you post about it too, but, he said he hopes they're pissed off. He hopes they come back and show what he knows they're capable of. So we'll see how it goes. Again, this is Dima Mixon. You can find all of his work on X at Dima_Mixon, sports editor for Pine Belt News, and also the co-host on the Eagle Hour, and also a view from the press box. So be sure to go check it out. A lot of stuff, yeah. He's got a lot of logs in the fire there, but go check it out. But guys, we appreciate it. Y'all be sure to go like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms to Nasty Bunch and beyond. You can have or you can enjoy more written work at www.si.com/college/Southern Miss, and we have tons of stuff on there throughout the week. So be sure to check that out. Y'all have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time.